"Turn off the machines, your daughter is coming out of the coma," shouted the homeless black girl, bursting through the hospital room door. Shards of glass from the window she had broken to get in were scattered across the spotless floor. The girl, approximately 12 years old, was dirty, barefoot, and wearing torn clothes, but her eyes shone with a determination that made everyone in the room freeze. She pointed directly to the bed where a blonde girl of the same age lay unconscious, surrounded by machines that beeped incessantly. "Get those tubes out of her now. They're keeping her asleep on purpose." Richard Whitman, one of the richest men in town, jumped out of his chair beside his daughter Emma's bed. His eyes, red from crying, widened in utter shock. "Who the hell are you?" "Security." "Please, sir, listen to me," begged the girl, dodging two security guards who were running toward her. "My name is Keisha. Emma is my friend. She doesn't need those machines. That's why she won't wake up." The elegant platinum-haired woman next to Richard, Victoria, his second wife, let out a hysterical scream. "Get that filthy child out of here immediately." Dr. Patterson, the family's private physician for years, stepped forward to protect the machines. "Don't touch my patient. This girl is clearly disturbed. The machines are the only thing keeping Emma alive." Keisha was only 12, but she had seen enough on the streets to recognize lies when she heard them. She had grown up alone since she was 8, when her grandmother died, surviving on odd jobs and the kindness of strangers. Her only real joy had been her secret friendship with Emma, whom she had met a few months ago when her old ball fell into the garden of the Whitman mansion. "Mr. Whitman, please." Keisha fought against the security guards trying to grab her. "Emma told me about the stories you read to her. About the mermaid who saved lost ships. She said you always ended by saying that true love can break any spell." Richard stopped, the blood draining from his face. How did this street child know such intimate details about his daughter? "Sir, they're poisoning her," Keisha screamed as she was dragged away. "Mrs. Victoria and Dr. Patterson. I heard them planning it. Turn off the machines and Emma will wake up." "That's crazy," Dr. Patterson growled, but his hands trembled slightly. "Richard, don't listen to this child. Emma has a rare blood disease. Without the machines, she will die." "Exactly," Victoria quickly added. "Street children will make up any story for money." The door slammed shut, cutting off Keisha's desperate cries. The hallway fell silent, except for the sound of the machines keeping Emma in a deep artificial sleep. Richard stood motionless, holding his daughter's cold hand. His mind was racing. How did that girl know about the mermaid stories? Those were private memories, intimate moments between father and daughter that no one else knew about. Victoria whispered to Dr. Patterson with a cold smile, "The girl is gone. Emma will continue to sleep forever, just as we planned." They didn't know that Keisha hadn't given up. On the streets, she had learned that sometimes you have to break a few rules to save the people you love. And Emma was the only real family she had ever known. What had this brave child discovered about the deadly conspiracy surrounding the millionaire's daughter? Why did Victoria and the trusted doctor want to keep Emma unconscious? And how had a homeless girl formed such a deep friendship with the heir to a fortune? If this story of unlikely friendship and courage against all odds touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to find out how a simple street girl was about to expose secrets that powerful people would do anything to keep hidden. 3 months earlier, Keisha had found Emma crying in the backyard of the Whitman mansion. The blonde girl was sitting alone on a swing, her tears falling silently as she watched other children playing in the street through the iron gate. "Why are you sad?" Keisha had asked, appearing out of nowhere after climbing the wall to retrieve a can she used as a soccer ball. Emma had been startled at first, but something in the genuine kindness of Keisha's eyes made her respond, "I'm sick. I have a blood disease and I can't play with other children." From there, a secret friendship was born. Every day, when Victoria went out for her social activities and Richard was at work, Keisha would climb the wall. They would talk for hours, sharing stories, dreams, and fears. Emma taught Keisha to read better using her children's books, while Keisha told stories of adventures on the streets that made Emma laugh for the first time in months. Back in the present, Victoria walked down the hospital corridor with Dr. Patterson, her heels echoing menacingly on the polished floor. "That child knows too much," she muttered, looking nervously from side to side. "Calm down, Victoria. Who's going to believe a beggar?" Dr. Patterson adjusted his coat, but his hands trembled slightly. "We are respected. She's nothing. You don't understand, Victoria hissed. She knows details that only Emma could have told her. About the stories Richard reads, about private conversations. That means they knew each other somehow. Dr. Patterson stopped abruptly. Impossible. Emma has barely been out of bed for months. Then how do you explain it? Victoria's voice rose dangerously. How does a street kid know about our family life? In the bedroom, Richard stood beside Emma, his mind racing. Keisha's words echoed incessantly, "They're poisoning her." How could such a serious accusation come from a child who clearly knew his daughter intimately? He began to remember strange little details from the past few months. Victoria always insisting on giving the medicine herself. Dr. Patterson constantly changing the treatment, each new medication leaving Emma weaker. The doctor's visits always happening when he was at work. Mr. Whitman. A nurse entered quietly. Sorry to interrupt, but security found this in the hospital garden. She handed him a small, stained notebook. Richard opened it, immediately recognizing Emma's careful handwriting on the first page, "My secret diary with Keisha." His hands trembled as he read the entries. March 15th. Keisha taught me how to make bracelets out of old string today. She's really smart, even though she doesn't go to school. March 20th. I told Keisha about the illness. She said that when she grows up, she's going to be a doctor to cure kids like me. April 5th. Keisha noticed that I get more tired after Victoria gives me the purple pills. She asked if I can ask Dad to look at the pills. April 12th. Keisha overheard Victoria talking on the phone about speeding up the process. I don't know what that means, but Keisha was worried. Richard felt his blood run cold. Emma had documented months of friendship with Keisha, but more than that, she had recorded disturbing observations about her own medical treatment. Meanwhile, Keisha had hidden in the hospital basement, a place she knew well from the time she had taken refuge there during storms. She wasn't just a street kid surviving by chance. She was a natural observer, someone who had learned to notice patterns and inconsistencies in order to stay alive. During her visits to Emma, Keisha had noticed things that the adults overlooked. How Emma always got worse after certain doctor visits. How Victoria insisted on being present during all treatments. How Dr. Patterson avoided answering direct questions about the medication. The night before, she had followed Victoria to a meeting at a distant cafe. Hidden behind a pillar, Keisha had overheard the entire conversation between Victoria and Dr. Patterson about increasing the dosage and making sure Richard signs the inheritance papers before it's too late. Now, sitting in the darkness of the hospital basement, Keisha was devising her plan. She had grown up invisible to the adult world, which had become her greatest advantage. They completely underestimated her, seeing only a dirty, unimportant child. But Keisha had learned something fundamental on the streets. Powerful people always make the same mistake. They believe they are untouchable. Victoria and Dr. Patterson had no idea that every private conversation, every unprotected document, every moment of arrogance had been observed by eyes they considered irrelevant. She pulled an old cell phone from her pocket, a device she had found after witnessing a theft and following the thief until she recovered it. For weeks, she had used the phone to record suspicious conversations, photograph medical documents when Dr. Patterson left them on the table, and document Victoria's every strange move. What those privileged adults didn't realize was that every act of contempt, every moment of casual cruelty, every word spoken as if she were deaf and stupid, had been carefully recorded by a mind sharper than they could ever imagine. Keisha smiled for the first time in days as she checked the recordings on her phone. She had enough evidence to destroy the conspiracy, but she needed something more. She needed Richard Whitman to believe her before it was too late for Emma. For a moment, when the security guards had dragged her out of the room, everyone thought they had silenced yet another insignificant voice on the margins of society, yet another problem child who had dared to disturb the established order. But anyone who truly knows the power born of hopelessness knows that it grows precisely in darkness, fueled by the very injustice that tries to suppress it. Richard closed Emma's diary with trembling hands, his last doubts disappearing like smoke. His daughter's words were too clear, too detailed to be made up. Keisha was not an intruder. She was the best friend Emma had ever had. In the hospital basement, Keisha wasted no time lamenting. She had learned on the streets that crying doesn't solve problems, action does. She checked the recordings on the old cell phone again, mentally organizing the evidence like a lawyer preparing a case. Recording 1, Victoria on the phone, October 28th. You need to hurry up, Marcus. Richard is starting to ask questions about why Emma isn't getting better. Recording 2, Dr. Patterson responding, same date, I'll triple the sedative dosage. In a week she'll be in an irreversible coma. Recording 3, Victoria laughing cruelly, November 2nd, perfect. 15 million in inheritance and life insurance. More than enough for our new life abroad. Keisha had documented everything with the precision of someone who grew up knowing that her word would be worth less than that of any well-dressed adult. Every conversation, every document left carelessly on tables, every moment of arrogance had been captured by eyes they considered non-existent. But evidence alone was not enough. Keisha needed an ally, someone Richard respected and trusted. That's when she remembered Jennifer Walsh, the head nurse who had been caring for Emma for months. Jennifer was different from the other staff. Keisha had noticed how the 45-year-old woman always double-checked the medications, how she asked technical questions that Dr. Patterson avoided answering, how her face contorted with concern whenever Victoria insisted on giving Emma special vitamins. The next morning, Keisha waited for Jennifer to come out to the parking lot during her break. The nurse almost screamed when she saw the girl emerge from behind a car. "You're the girl who broke into Emma's room yesterday," Jennifer said, recognizing her immediately. "Ms. Jennifer, please don't yell. I need your help." Keisha kept her hands up, showing she posed no threat. "Emma is being poisoned, and I can prove it." Jennifer stopped, her expression shifting from surprise to skepticism, then to something dangerously close to curiosity. "That's a very serious accusation, child." "I know. That's why I brought this." Keisha showed her cell phone, playing the first recording. Jennifer's face paled progressively as she listened. As a nurse for 2 decades, she knew the signs of drug poisoning, but she had never been able to prove her suspicions. "My God," Jennifer whispered when the recording ended. "I knew something was wrong." Emma's symptoms didn't match aplastic anemia, but Dr. Patterson always had explanations. "Because he was lying," Keisha said firmly. "They planned it all. And now Emma is dying because of their greed." Jennifer looked into the girl's eyes and saw something that struck her deeply. Not despair or fear, but pure determination. "What do you need from me?" "Access to Emma's real blood tests. The ones Dr. Patterson hid from Mr. Richard." Jennifer hesitated for just a second. In her 20-year career, she had seen many injustices, but never anything as monstrous as a doctor deliberately poisoning a child. "Meet me at the hospital pharmacy at 11 a.m. Bring those recordings." Meanwhile, Victoria walked through the hospital corridors as if she owned the place. She had spent the night researching Keisha, discovering that she was officially non-existent. No school records, no known family, no fixed address. "Perfect," she murmured on the phone with Dr. Patterson. "Who's going to believe a runaway with no family against us? She doesn't even have any documents." "I'm still concerned." His voice sounded tense on the other end of the line. "How did she know about the mermaid stories?" Richard was disturbed. "Richard is a sentimental idiot," Victoria replied coldly. "In 48 hours Emma will be dead and I will be the rich widow crying at the funeral. That girl will disappear back to the streets where she belongs." What Victoria didn't know was that Keisha had hacked into the hospital's internal communication system, a skill she had developed during her months exploring the building. Every call, every message between Victoria and Dr. Patterson was being intercepted and recorded. At 11 a.m. sharp, Jennifer met Keisha at the pharmacy. The nurse had brought a bulky folder of documents that made Keisha's stomach churn. "These are Emma's actual test results from the last 6 months, Jennifer explained, her hands shaking with anger. "Look here, sky-high levels of benzodiazepines and barbiturates in her blood. Drugs that don't appear on any official prescription. And that means that she's being systematically sedated and poisoned. Her body is fighting against massive doses of psychotropic drugs disguised as vitamins." Jennifer pointed to charts showing artificial deterioration. A healthy 12-year-old child forced into an induced coma. Keisha photographed every document, every chart, every line of evidence. But Jennifer had more. "I also found this." The nurse showed bank statements she had discreetly printed out. Dr. Patterson received 3 transfers of $50,000 from an offshore account registered in Victoria's name in the last 2 months. Keisha smiled for the first time in days. Now she had everything, recordings of the conversations, medical evidence of the illegal drugs, and financial records proving the conspiracy. Ms. Jennifer, I need one more thing. Access to Emma's room at 3 p.m., when Victoria is in the meeting with the estate lawyers. What do you plan to do? Prove to Mr. Richard that his daughter can wake up when they stop poisoning her. Jennifer looked at the 12-year-old girl organizing evidence like a seasoned detective and made a decision that would change everything. You'll have 20 minutes. After that, I can no longer protect you. 20 minutes is all I need to wake Emma up and destroy a 6-month lie. That afternoon, Victoria confidently headed to the meeting with the lawyers, already planning how she would invest Richard's millions after Emma's tragic loss. Dr. Patterson adjusted the final dosage of sedatives that would put Emma into an irreversible coma. Neither of them suspected that a street girl had turned their arrogance into evidence, their cruelty into documented crime, and their certainty of impunity into their own sentence of destruction. Keisha checked her watch. 2:55 p.m. In 5 minutes, the operation that would save Emma and expose one of the most sordid conspiracies that hospital had ever witnessed would begin. For a moment, she took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything she had discovered and planned. That's when she noticed something that made her blood run cold. An envelope had been slipped under the pharmacy door. Inside, a single typed line: "We know who you are and where you sleep. Disappear or Emma dies tonight, for sure." What those privileged adults didn't realize was that each threat only confirmed the desperation of those who knew they had been discovered. Keisha carefully folded the threat and put it in her pocket. More evidence for the collection that was about to destroy 2 lives built on lies, greed, and the fatal underestimation of a child they deemed too invisible to matter. At 3 p.m. sharp, Keisha and Jennifer entered Emma's room. Richard stood by the bed, holding his daughter's cold hand, when Jennifer whispered, "Mr. Whitman, you need to see this." "What is it?" Richard looked confused at the cell phone Keisha was holding out to him. "The truth," Keisha replied simply, pressing play. Victoria's voice echoed clearly through the room. "You need to hurry, Marcus. Richard is starting to ask questions about why Emma isn't getting better." Richard felt his world collapse. That's Victoria's voice. "Listen to everything," Keisha said firmly, moving on to the second recording. Dr. Patterson replied, "I'm going to triple the sedative dosage. In a week, she'll be in an irreversible coma." Richard's hands began to shake violently. My God, it can't be true." "There's more," Jennifer said gently, showing him the medical tests. Extremely high levels of benzodiazepines and barbiturates in Emma's blood. Drugs that are not listed on any official prescription you authorized. Keisha showed the bank statements. "And here are the transfers." Dr. Patterson received $150,000 from an offshore account in Victoria's name in the last 2 months. Richard studied each document, each line of evidence, his expression changing from shock to understanding, then to a cold anger that made Keisha take a step back. "They're poisoning my daughter," he whispered, then shouted, "They're killing my daughter." "Mr. Whitman," Keisha held his arm gently. "We can save her now. But you need to turn off the machines before Dr. Patterson returns with the final dosage." "But what if you're wrong? What if the machines are actually keeping her alive?" Jennifer approached the bed. "Mr. Whitman, as a nurse for 20 years, I can assure you that these machines are not treating aplastic anemia. They are pumping sedatives that keep Emma unconscious. How did a 12-year-old figure all this out when I, with all my resources, couldn't?" Richard asked, looking at Keisha with a mixture of admiration and shame. "Because they considered me invisible," Keisha replied. "No one cares what a street kid sees or hears. That gave me access to conversations and documents they would never protect in front of me." Just then, the door burst open. Victoria rushed in, followed by Dr. Patterson carrying a large syringe. "Richard dear, I rushed over from the lawyers' meeting when I heard that." Victoria stopped abruptly when she saw Keisha and Jennifer in the room. "What is that child doing here? And why do you have the private medical files?" Dr. Patterson tried to move toward the 4 machine, but Richard blocked his way. "Don't you dare go near my daughter." "Richard, you're being unreasonable," Dr. Patterson said, his voice beginning to falter. "Emma needs the medication to." "To what, Marcus?" Richard grabbed Keisha's cell phone and pressed play. Dr. Patterson's own voice filled the room. "I'm going to triple the sedative dosage. In a week, she'll be in an irreversible coma." Dr. Patterson's face turned white as a sheet. Victoria tried to run for the door, but Jennifer blocked her. 15 million in inheritance and life insurance. More than enough for our new life abroad. The recording continued with Victoria's voice laughing cruelly. You were planning to kill my daughter, Richard whispered, his voice breaking. For money. Victoria tried to regain her composure. Richard, these recordings could be fake, edited. Are you going to believe a street girl who doesn't even have documents? He'll believe this, Jennifer said, showing the bank statements. Transfers from your offshore account to Dr. Patterson. $50,000 a month for the last 3 months. Dr. Patterson collapsed into a chair, the syringe falling from his trembling hands. Richard, the financial situation was difficult and... You were killing a child. Richard exploded, his voice echoing down the hallway. I never meant for it to go this far, Dr. Patterson whispered, burying his face in his hands. Victoria said Emma had a terminal illness anyway, that we were just hastening the inevitable. Shut up. Victoria hissed at him, realizing he was confessing everything. Keisha took advantage of the chaos and began turning off the machines one by one. Mr. Richard, help me. We need to stop the poison now. What are you doing? Victoria shouted, trying to reach the machines. You're going to kill her. Richard grabbed Victoria by the arms, preventing her from interfering. The only person trying to kill my daughter is you. One by one, the machines were turned off. The room became eerily quiet, only the sound of Emma's natural breathing filling the space. How long will it take? Richard asked anxiously. It depends on how much poison is still in her system, Jennifer replied, checking Emma's pulse. But if Keisha is right. 3 minutes passed. 4. Victoria laughed bitterly. See? You just killed her. Congratulations. It was in the 5th minute that Emma moved her fingers. Daddy. Emma's voice was weak but unmistakably real. Richard fell to his knees beside the bed, tears streaming down his face. Emma. My girl, you're waking up. Emma's eyes opened slowly, focusing first on her father, then Keisha. Keisha? How did you get here? I came to get you like I promised, Keisha smiled, her own tears falling freely. Victoria watched in horror as her victim sat up in bed, clearly recovering quickly now that the steady flow of sedatives had stopped. I feel different, Emma said, touching her own head. Less foggy. It's like I've been sleeping for months. You have, Jennifer explained gently. But now you're going to be okay. Dr. Patterson tried to slip out of the room, but Richard grabbed him by his coat. You're not going anywhere. Jennifer, call the police. Now. Richard, please, Victoria begged, all her arrogance gone. We can work this out as a family. Think of the scandal. You tried to kill my daughter, Richard said coldly. The only thing I'm thinking about is how you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Emma looked confusedly at Victoria and Dr. Patterson. Did they really try to hurt me? Why? Keisha held Emma's hand. Because some people think money is more important than life. But they were wrong about one thing. What? They thought no one was paying enough attention to stop them. Victoria looked at Keisha with pure hatred. A street kid ruined everything. How is that possible? Because you underestimated me, Keisha replied calmly. You thought that because I didn't have a home, didn't have a family, didn't have documents, I didn't matter. But I do matter. And Emma matters. And the truth always matters more than money. The sound of police sirens echoed outside. Jennifer had called during the confrontation, and now justice was literally on its way. Dr. Patterson looked at the evidence scattered across the table, the recordings, the medical documents, the bank statements, and realized there was no escape. 20 years of medical reputation destroyed by greed and arrogance. Victoria tried one last desperate move. Richard, think about it. Without me, you'll be raising Emma alone. With my help, we can. With your help. Richard laughed bitterly. You almost killed the only person in the world I love. And you thought I'd never find out. 2 police officers entered the room, immediately assessing the situation. Jennifer quickly explained what had happened, showing them the evidence. Victoria Whitman and Dr. Marcus Patterson, "You are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and fraud," announced the older officer, pulling out his handcuffs. As the handcuffs clicked around Victoria's wrists, she looked at Keisha one last time. How did a child manage this? Keisha smiled, not cruelly, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who knows they did the right thing. "Because I learned something on the streets that you never understood. When you really care about someone, no obstacle is too big to overcome." As Victoria and Dr. Patterson were led away, Emma squeezed Keisha's hand. "You saved my life." "You saved mine first," Keisha replied. "You gave me a family when I had no one." Richard hugged both girls, finally understanding that his real family was right there in front of him. But as they celebrated justice served and a life saved, one question remained. How had two people who swore to protect Emma, a wife and a trusted doctor, become her greatest predators? And how had a girl the world considered invisible become the only person brave enough to expose the truth when all the adults failed to protect an innocent child? 6 months later, Keisha walked through the halls of the private school where Richard had enrolled her, her new classmates greeting her warmly. The street girl was now known as the heroine who saved Emma Whitman, her story inspiring documentaries and national news reports. Richard had not only legally adopted Keisha, but also created the Keisha Emma Foundation for Vulnerable Children, with an annual budget of $5 million. Emma, fully recovered, studied alongside her new sister, the two of them inseparable. Victoria was serving a 25-year sentence in a state penitentiary, where she discovered that social prestige does not exist behind bars. Dr. Patterson, with his medical license permanently revoked, worked as an attendant in a pharmacy, his reputation destroyed forever. "Sometimes I wonder if they regret it," Emma commented as they played in the garden that had once been the scene of their secret friendship. "Their regret doesn't matter," Keisha replied, watching the sunset. "What matters is that we learn something. True strength doesn't come from money or social status, but from doing the right thing when no one is looking." Richard came home from work to find his two daughters laughing together, his heart overflowing with gratitude. The girl everyone had considered invisible had become the brightest light in their lives. Victoria and Dr. Patterson tried to destroy an innocent child, but ended up destroying themselves. Keisha learned that true revenge is not retaliating for the harm done to you, it is achieving success that your enemies could never imagine. If this story of courage and justice touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that the size of your origins does not determine the greatness of your destiny.